What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to basketball, and more importantly, welcome back to draft week. This week we've been covering a bunch of different things leading up to the NBA draft, and today we're looking at the best and worst spots for each of the top NBA prospects coming into the draft this year. Now, up to this point in draft week, I released my official big board, one that I turned into the actual team that I work for. It's pretty cool. The video's done really well so far. Thank you for the support. And I also just put out a video doing some mock draft stats where we took a look at a bunch of different mock drafts, analyzed them, and kind of found out some data about each of the players coming into the league this next year. And we're actually going to use this data to kind of help us figure out, hey, what are the best and worst spots for these prospects coming in? This is a question that I just get asked a lot. They're like, hey, do you think this guy would fit on this team? Would he fit on this team? Yada, yada, yada. And so we're going to be taking a look at that today and try to figure out where are the best places for these guys. But hey, before we do that, make sure you guys like, subscribe, and comment. I've responded to every single comment to my YouTube channel up to this point, and I intend to keep on doing so. As always, go watch the rest of the draft week stuff. Go watch the ideal offseason stuff. I got to get ready to do the last two ideal off seasons as the Pacers and Thunder kind of start to round out the finals. But yeah, with all that being said, let's get into it. Alrighty, so a quick recap. What did we do yesterday? Yesterday, I took a look at a bunch of different mock drafts, and I went and just calculated some really basic data so that we could kind of get a draft range as to where we thought guys were going to fall in the draft based off of all the different mock drafts that are out there, right? And what I've decided to do now is just bring this data over here. So like, here's Cooper Flagg. The highest draft spot we saw him was 1. The lowest was also 1. But you could take a look at like Noah Senge. He has a range of like 8 to 17, and so what we'll do is we'll take a look at picks 8 to 17 and figure out, okay, what would be the best spot for him? What would be the worst spot for him? And I hope that it's clear going in right away. I try to say this in all the videos, but for some reason, some of you dum-dums out there still miss it because you skip to different parts of the video. I'm rooting for all of these prospects. I want all these teams to be successful. I really, really do. I promise you I do. And this is also not a perfect analysis, right? I think it's important to think about, we don't know what these rosters are going to look like completely, but all I can do is judge it based off where they're at currently. And I mean, that's what these teams have to do as well, because they have to draft these guys before they're like going into free agency and doing other things. So with all that being said, let's start going into this and figuring out where these guys should be. For the first two, it's pretty easy. I'm going to be shocked if the draft order doesn't go Cooper Flagg, Dylan Harper. I think that that's the most likely outcome. So I really don't think there's like a need to overcomplicate this. We're just going to say the Dallas Mavericks because that's the only range there is, and then the San Antonio Spurs right here. And by the way, I do have the draft order over here if you guys were curious. For Ace Bailey, he's the first player with a little bit of a range of 3 to 4. I can only imagine the types of articles that are going to come out over the next couple days trying to rearrange like these like next 3 or 4 people. I'm going to be pretty shocked if it doesn't just go this 4 in this order. Like I just can't really see that happening otherwise, but you know, anything can happen in the NBA. But if we're looking at picks 3 and 4 between Philadelphia and Charlotte, what's the best spot for him and what's the worst? Well, when I think about Ace Bailey, I immediately start to think about, okay, like team fit, like which of these teams like needs a guy at that position, and like either team like could use him. They kind of have guys at that spot as well. If I think about what's probably going to be best for his development, I'd probably say the Sixers, for the sake of like, okay, there's going to be a bunch of other guys on the team already that's going to take the attention off of him. He doesn't need to have the ball right away. He can kind of take some time and develop, which is good for every prospect, right? That's good for every prospect. Every young guy coming in, if they don't have to be the guy right away, that's awesome, right? Like Cooper Flagg is going to be that way. Dylan Harper's going to be that way. Like, Flagg might be the second, maybe eventually third guy on a scouting report any single night. Harper's going to be what, like third or fourth potentially, and kind of same with Ace Bailey if he ends up in Philly. And the reason that I don't put the Hornets here, because I don't think it would be a bad thing if he ended up on Charlotte. Again, him and Brandon Miller maybe seems a little bit redundant at times, but I don't know what to expect out of this developmental team in Charlotte. It's still so new there. Historically, I would have said just not ending up in Charlotte is kind of a good thing in general, but I'm hopeful that the Hornets are kind of heading in a better direction. But this organization's pretty lock and key right now with how they're doing things. So I just don't know what I don't know. But I think overall, just him ending up in Philly is probably going to be better for him. VJ Edgecombe picks 3 through 5 here. Okay, so this is where it starts to get a little bit interesting, right? I think the worst of these spots, I'm going to say right away for him, would be the Sixers. And here's the reason why. You could probably take the same logic that I just used for Ace and throw it back at me and say like, oh, well, why not just do that? And I'd hear you on that, and I want to make it clear, I don't think any of these are necessarily bad fits, right? I just think there's so many other people kind of at the position he's going to be at, to where it's going to be a little bit, how should I say, just a little bit troublesome for him to find like any meaningful court time, and I think that that could be tough. Whereas like Philly, like they could always use some longer forwards, right? Like they don't have like an ample amount of those guys. Like Philly, like you have to imagine Jared McCain's going to be a big part of the developmental process. Tyrese Maxey, you obviously want him with the ball a ton of the time, so. And I think VJ could play off of those guys, but I don't think it's an ideal fit compared to some of the others. In Charlotte, he probably starts day one, which is always cool, and he wouldn't be a focal point. Same with the Jazz. And so if I have to ask myself between these two, which are going to be better, I'd probably go with the Jazz for the sake of, again, they just have a more proven developmental track record. They're kind of known for being pretty good at that in the NBA. And I know some of you are going to be like, did you see the rookies from last year? Look at yourself in the mirror and tell yourself you're dumb. Okay, I know it's, what day is it for you guys? It's a Wednesday at the time you guys see this. I know it's just a Wednesday, but you got to look at yourself in the mirror, call yourself a dum-dum. They're rookies. And we didn't expect most of them to be any good. Anyway, so it is what it is. So I'm going to say Utah would be the best spot in that range. Next up, we have Trey Johnson here with a range of 5 to 7, which that feels right. Maybe you think he falls outside of that, but I'd find that unlikely. If I'm looking between these couple of teams, right? Washington fans, sorry, like your organization's just not really known for doing this, so it's probably never going to be a great thing for you guys, but I just feel like Washington kind of is the worst spot for him. Like, he could very well start day one, which would be kind of cool, but I think for his development, he probably needs to come off the bench, which kind of makes like Utah a hard place to say like he should go as well. But again, they have such a good proven developmental staff there. I look at New Orleans and I go, okay, they've got a bunch of other forwards there. He doesn't have to start right away. He can just be a scorer off the bench, which could be good. They've taken in a lot of prospects before and grown them in good ways. It looks like they might have kind of a new regime coming in now, though, so I guess we don't know for sure how that's going to be. Yeah, I'm having trouble debating between New Orleans and Utah for this one. I think like a team fit might make more sense in New Orleans, but I just don't know developmentally what it's going to look like there. Whereas for Utah, I assume he would probably start day one, right? He probably comes off and he can be a scorer right away. Like Markkanen's going to be option 1. Keontae George is probably option number 2, right? With like, or maybe Colin Sexton if he's still on the team at that point. But do they just kind of let him have the green light, or does he have to play kind of within an offense and all these other people? Because there's a lot of other guys that are going to want the ball on that team. I don't know, and this is where I'm curious to hear your guys' thoughts on this. I'm not dead set on any of these picks whatsoever, but I think I'm gonna go Utah still, just because I don't know what's going on in New Orleans, and obviously a lot of things could be a little bit weird at points during the season for them, depending on what happens with Zion. Jeremiah Fears, the exact same range. Okay. This is going to be different. Utah's got so many other guards there right now, so that already just doesn't feel like a good spot for him. So let's put Utah as the kind of worst place right now. There's just too many other guys to compete with, not anybody to necessarily learn from and help you grow there as a player. But again, I don't think it'd be the worst thing in the world because they do have good developmental staff overall. As far as like between Washington and New Orleans, New Orleans, what kind of role are they going to give you right away? DeJounte Murray's out. Who are they going to play at the point guard? Potentially CJ McCollum if he doesn't get moved. They got Alvarado there as well. So you got some pretty good guys to learn from on the team. And then you got Washington. I just have a hard time telling you Washington's ever going to be the place to go. I'm sorry, Washington fans. You have to understand. You have to understand. It's just, it is what it is. So I think I'm going to go New Orleans for that one. Let's space that out a little bit more. Con Knipple, range 6 to 10 here. So we've got Washington, New Orleans, Brooklyn, Toronto, Houston. Okay, what would be the worst fit for you? There's so many wings in Washington already that they're kind of trying to work with, and they're probably trying to move off like a Corey Kispert already. New Orleans, they could probably use a shooter, and you'd have a couple guys in front of you. You wouldn't have to do a ton right away. Brooklyn, oh, you're all alone on that roster. Toronto, they've kind of already got some guys in that role. And then there's Houston, who desperately needs your skills. And you'd probably get playing time right away. Good coaching staff. They've been developing their young guys pretty well for the most part here. Houston feels like the obvious answer here. Yeah, he feels like the obvious one. So I think I'm going to put Houston there for his best case scenario. If we're looking between the rest of these, where would be the worst place for him to end up? I'm going to say maybe Brooklyn, because I think Brooklyn needs to take a swing on a guy that wants the ball maybe a little bit more and doesn't need to have his shot created for him. So, because I don't think Con Knippel's going to be able to get his own shot off in the NBA right away. And Brooklyn, we're just not sure what they're going to have. So I think I'm going to put Brooklyn there. Come on, Maluach here with a range of 4 to 13. Okay. Getting a little harder to take a look at this now. So we've got Charlotte here. Again, we're not quite sure what to make of their developmental staff right now. Mark Williams is there right now. Is Mark Williams going to be gone? Potentially, yeah. Utah, they just have no need for that player. So I don't think that makes a ton of sense. Washington literally just took a center there the year before. So it'd be kind of weird to try to develop both of them because I don't see either of them playing the forward position. Pelicans could be solid. That one could be solid. Brooklyn, I could see them going for that potentially. You don't have to start right away, which would be nice. And Nick Claxton, I can't imagine as a long-term asset. They might even trade him halfway through the year, which could be a good spot for you to end up in. Toronto feels like a pretty ideal pick. They're looking for a young center to start grooming, so these two kind of stick out to me right away. Houston, not as much. Portland, not as much. I do think Chicago would be a good place. They don't have a great direction as an organization right now, and but you would have like Giddey setting you up, which compared to like Brooklyn and Toronto, well, Toronto, they got enough like solid passers to where maybe you could make it work between like RJ Barrett, Scotty Barnes, Brandon Ingram. Yeah, that's not the worst thing. And then you have Atlanta as well. Atlanta would be a pretty cool place. Like him playing off of Trae Young probably makes a ton of sense. So it's hard to argue against like Atlanta as well with this. So if we're giving the range of 4 to 13, right, which is what the data said he could go within, which again, take that data as you will. I think the best case scenario for him amongst those would be Atlanta. Again, just playing off of Trae Young, being that lob threat, like that's where he's going to be best offensively. They could probably use any sort of defense they could get. It feels like he'd be a big priority there, and maybe they end up moving a Kongwu if they do something like that. I wouldn't be surprised if Atlanta tries to trade up to get him as well. I could see that happening. And what would be the worst fit for him? Again, we've got a 4 to 13 range here. Portland, they don't have a very good developmental track. They've already got another center there. Houston, it wouldn't be that bad, even though, again, they've got a guy there already. Brooklyn, no. New Orleans, no. Like Washington, because again, they just took somebody there. Utah, like, would that mean that they trade Walker Kessler? That'd be really weird if they did that, but I don't necessarily see it. So I think between the two of these, probably Portland, because again, poor developmental record just in general, and they wouldn't necessarily have someone like setting him up for things right away because they don't seem to prioritize Scoot very much right now. So I think I'm going to go Portland for that one. Kasparas Yakachonis. And by the way, I'm doing the top 30 players. I don't need to do all of them because I know my video retention and what it's going to be at that point anyway. All right, Yakachonis. We've got an 8 to 16 range right here, which means the Nets, Raptors, Rockets, Trailblazers, Bulls, Hawks, Spurs, Thunder. Oh, and I should change this. Now to be the Memphis Grizzlies. I know when we did the study, we were originally looking at a Magic draft pick, but let's just change it to reflect the Grizzlies now. So we've got 8 to 16 here. The Nets, I could totally see them going after that and just having a lead guard. So I don't think that would be the worst place for him. He could have the ball right away. If Cam Johnson's still on the team, which feels unlikely, but you never know, then he's got a guy to distribute to right away. He's got a good center to play off of right away, which I think is going to be a big plus for him. Toronto, a lot of other guys want the ball. That one doesn't make a ton of sense to me. Houston, while they could probably use a point guard, I'm not sure if that's like the perfect fit. Portland, definitely not. The Bulls, definitely not. The Hawks, definitely not. Spurs, definitely not. The Thunder, it doesn't really make sense to bring him there. And then the Grizzlies, it doesn't really make sense to bring him there. So what are we kind of saying? Like, Toronto, while they probably have a positional need, I'm not sure if it's the best team fit. Brooklyn's probably the best fit for him in that sense, unless... I don't know. Again, I don't see the Portland one making a ton of sense. They should be developing other guards there. The Bulls just don't need to. The Hawks just don't need to. The Spurs just don't need to. The Thunder don't need to. And the Grizzlies don't really need to. So, dang. That's an interesting one. It almost feels like maybe he should go a little bit higher in the draft, but maybe this is a sign that he could slip a little bit, right? So, between Brooklyn and Toronto, I'll say probably the best case scenarios for him. I'm going to say Brooklyn, just because I think playing off a guy like Claxton is going to be beneficial to Yakachonis right away. So let's go with the Nets. Where would be the worst place for him out of all of these people? Probably the Bulls, right? Because they have so many other guards. So while they are very experienced with their point guards, and I am all for, like, if the Bulls are just going to be idiots, I'm a Bulls fan for viewers that aren't aware, if the Bulls are just going to be stupid, I do think it'd be hilarious to just keep building out the all-point guard team, but, man, that would not be good for him. Derek Queen, a much smaller range here, 9 to 13, so the Raptors, the Rockets, the Trailblazers, the Bulls, and the Hawks. Okay, what would be good scenarios for him overall? Toronto, they're looking to develop another young center, so it might not be the type that you want, but I could see it. Houston, they've already got a guy kind of just like him, so I'm not sure they want to go for a second one. Portland, it doesn't make a ton of sense with all the people they have there. Chicago could do it, looking for a young big. Atlanta could do it, looking for a young big. Do we see the, what is the range again? It's 13. Okay, so between those three teams, where do we think would be the best fit for him? Toronto, again, so many other guys that kind of want the basketball. It feels like Queen is going to be a little bit useless if he doesn't have the ball right away. And are they really just going to let him post up? They don't really have the shooting to benefit him either. I don't know. The Bulls, does he have people to play off of there? I'm not so sure. Atlanta... he's just such a hard one to have fit in general, because so much of his offense is like, okay, I have the basketball, now let me go do what I need to do. And while that's cool, we don't have a ton of examples of that in the NBA outside of like Jokic, Şengün, and like Embiid, and like a lot of those we find don't lead to good offense overall, right? So it's a hard prospect. We're not talking about the prospect here, we're talking about fit. I guess if I had to pick a best fit for him in particular between these, I guess maybe the Hawks. Do we want to say the Hawks? Are we going to have the shooting and the smarts to kind of play off of him? Although he's not really the type of big that Trey likes to play with, and I feel like if you can't play with Trey, you're not going to get on the court. So maybe it's the Bulls? Out of these three, is it the Bulls? Again, because I just don't see the Toronto fit necessarily. Okay, I don't feel great about it, but I'm going to say the Bulls, unfortunately, for that one. And then if we're looking at that kind of 9 to 13 range again, which one is going to be the worst fit? I'm going to say probably Houston, just because they can't afford to have like another like not quite defensive, not quite shooting big man out there, and people are just going to be able to collapse on him all the time. So let's go with Houston there. Noah Senge, this is a big range right here, 8 to 17. So that means we got the Nets, Raptors, Rockets, Blazers, Bulls, Hawks, Spurs, Thunder, Grizzlies, Timberwolves. Okay, so what do we know about Senge? He's going to probably need a chance to develop a little bit. I'm not sure he's going to be ready day one. He's not really creating his own shot right now. He's playing off of others, so he needs somebody to kind of help set him up, take some pressure off him. So I feel like that already makes Brooklyn a not very ideal spot for him with this pick. Toronto, they've got a lot of other people like of similar builds that could probably help guide him, so that's not necessarily a bad one to look at. Houston, I feel like they need a more proven shooter, and again, I know he's hit some threes in some of his games, but he's not being guarded. The Portland Trailblazers, it just doesn't feel like a team fit for them. Maybe you could say the Bulls, because they should be just trying to prioritize development and growth. The Hawks, Not so sure about that. I could see the Spurs. They need some lengthier wings, and they don't need to be good right this second. The Thunder, that could be a really good spot for him. It'd be hard to argue against the Thunder. He wouldn't even have to play right away. The Grizzlies, they could use some forwards, but they probably want him to play a little bit more now. And then the Timberwolves, no, I don't think that'd be a bad spot necessarily. I just think there might be better ones. It's hard to argue against the Thunder here. I feel like the Thunder is like the obvious pick here. He just becomes their new Ousmane Dieng or whatever. So I think that makes a lot of sense. Where would be the worst place for a Senge out of this range? Again, 8 to Brooklyn just feels like no. He's gonna have nobody to set him up. He's like, it's gonna be such a bad team, most likely, I assume, and so I just don't think that'd be a good spot for him. I'm not even saying they wouldn't necessarily do a good job at developing him, but I feel like it'd be rough for him in the earlier years, and that could kill the confidence. Yegor Demean, 10 to 18. Alrighty, so now we've got like a second Wizards pick back into things here, which is kind of interesting. So I feel like I should be putting like some sort of like symbols or something here to kind of help me like attribute things. Oh, nope, that's going to do a formula, so whatever. 10, what do we say, 10 to 18? Okay. If we think about Yegor on the Rockets, they've already kind of got a big ball handler that they're trying to develop. They got Reed Shepherd as well. He wouldn't necessarily have to play right away. I feel like they need to find like a true point guard at some point, so that's probably not a great project for them to take on. I feel like they also just don't need more projects. You're just kind of going to fall into the heap of things, so I don't necessarily love that one. I don't necessarily love the Portland fit either, because they haven't even done a good enough job getting the playmakers they currently have some supporting help. The Bulls, no more playmakers. The Hawks, potentially, like they could use a reserve guard. They don't really have like that bigger ball handler type of guy yet, because I'm not sure Risachet becomes that. Like Dyson can a little bit actually, but so the Hawks, not a bad option. The Spurs, no, they got too many other guys there. Thunder, no, I don't think that makes sense. Grizzlies, I don't think that makes sense. Timberwolves, I could potentially see in a second Washington pick. Yeah, swinging for the upside there. That wouldn't be the worst thing. That really wouldn't be the worst thing. They don't have a ton of guards that they're actively like trying to develop right now. He'd be a different guy than Keyshawn George. I don't hate that at all, especially in a place where they can afford to be more patient with him. I feel like this 18th pick for Washington that's a good spot for him. What would be the worst spot between 10 to 18? Portland would be rough. The Bulls, at least the Bulls maybe are not trying to be as good this year, so maybe I give the edge to Portland a little bit more there. The Thunder, it's hard to say that they'd ever be a bad place for a prospect to end up. The Spurs doesn't make a ton of sense to me, again, because they've got so many other guys in that position they're trying to grow. But they are the Spurs, so I'm going to give it to Portland, again, just because bad development history and just, like, not a need for that type of player right now. Carter Bryant, this is a fun one, so very similar range. We just don't have the Rockets involved in that range right now, but this 11 to 18. So Carter Bryant, similar thing as like a Senge, going to need a little bit of time to start developing. So we're going to want a place where he can really develop. They've got a good developmental team, right? Because we know that it's a project. It probably doesn't matter who's at his position right now. Again, people drafting him know what he's going to be. Portland, probably not a bad option for that reason, but not the best developmental team. Chicago, there's definitely an opening for him to even get some playing time right away, so I don't necessarily hate that. The Hawks, probably not the worst fit. You're not going to need to have the ball much on that team. You don't need to have a ton of playing time right now. The Spurs, pretty good track record of developing players overall, and a positional need, so that one's pretty high up there right away. The Thunder, of course, that one would be pretty good. The Grizzlies, they probably need someone a little bit more urgently. Timberwolves, maybe you can stomach that. I feel like they want a more win now type player. Washington, again, just not the best track record of developing these types of projects. Like, consider this like a Johnny Davis type thing. So I feel like the Spurs are probably the ideal place for him to end up out of those. But where would be the worst place? I guess you could say Washington for that reason, because there's so many other like young players there trying to figure it out at that position, and it's not a great track record of development, so I think I'm gonna go Washington there. Colin Murray Boyles, holy draft range, 10 to 28 right here. Okay, so we've got a lot of options. Now we can talk about the Nets, the Heat, the Jazz are back in it, the Hawks. Technically, I have 2 picks in this range. The Pacers, the Thunder, again, the Magic, a couple Nets picks, and a Celtics pick. Okay, so this is a big range, obviously a polarizing player. This is one of those guys where I don't think there's a lot of disagreement on what this guy can and can't do. It's more so how confident are we that we're going to achieve it. And I think we all understand that like the fit needs to be important on this team, or for him to make it work. So you got to take into account like play style and stuff like that. And you expect this guy to be probably a contributor a little bit more so right away. Houston, you can't have another non-shooter. You just can't. I don't think that that's good for them. Probably same with Portland. Chicago, probably not a bad option for him because the play style's not too determined right now. There's a couple other guys that want the basketball, but maybe they it's not like they have a scheme that they necessarily have to fit within. The Hawks, Trey's got the ball so much that he doesn't feel like the type of guy that can play off of Trae Young very well, unless they want to start getting into some more like Draymond Green handoff type things. Then I'd find that kind of interesting. So I'm not going to write them off for that reason. The Spurs, too many other guys with the basketball. You'd have a spacing center, which would be nice. So not the worst spot there. The Thunder, well, there is a bit of a positional need, and they'd probably develop him correctly. Does he kind of feel like this, like he should be part of this like slashing team, though? That doesn't make a ton of sense to me. The Memphis Grizzlies, they have so many other guys at that position. I'm not so sure. The Timberwolves, no, I don't like that fit. Washington, I don't think it'd be the worst thing in the world. Again, they don't really have a solidified play style right now either. Looking at Brooklyn, potentially, yeah, because again, they just don't have a solidified system. Yeah, that's not the worst one. And he could have the ball a little bit more. He could kind of get the chance to develop right away. They've got kind of a work hard, grindy culture, which could be good for him. I'm talking myself into the Brooklyn Nets right away for him. That sounds pretty good, actually. What would be the worst fit out of these? If we can look at this like 10 to 28 range again. Again, the Thunder play style seems weird, but I'm never going to say the Thunder is a bad place for anyone to go to. The Jazz, there's so many people at those positions. Wizards, no. Timberwolves, that feels like such a weird fit to add like another Julius Randle type player, so I'm going to say the Timberwolves. That doesn't make a ton of sense to me necessarily. I'm going to expand this a little bit more so you guys can see it. There we go. Asa Newell, basically the same range right now. I immediately think the best range for him, if we have an 11 to 27 range right here, which, by the way, should I zoom in on this a little bit more so that you guys can see it? Let's, should we do something like this, maybe? Yeah, I like that. 11 to 27, we have the Indiana Pacers. Makes too much sense for this guy. I would love to see him end up there. He's so gifted, like athletically and coordinated wise. Like he can get up and down the court really well, play in a fast-paced style like this, and be like a rim protector and stuff. Be a lob threat. He wouldn't like necessarily have to have the ball at all right now. That'd be a cool one. I like that a lot. What would be the worst fit for an Asa Newell? Like where would he go where it wouldn't fit very well? Well, day one, probably just going to be a lob threat. We hope that he can eventually maybe develop a couple more forward-like skills, which is like shooting, handling the ball a little bit more, right? That's kind of the best for his long term. So somewhere that's just going to kind of reclude him to just being the lob threat probably isn't the best thing ever. So if we're looking at like 11, don't necessarily need another big in Portland. Chicago could probably use him. Atlanta could use him. Spurs even as a backup, sure. Thunder, I think, would be a cool fit. The Grizzlies, potentially. The Timberwolves, even there, like, maybe a potential. Like, I do think he's a more, like, versatile and easy guy to fit into places, so I'm not tripping quite as much. The Wizards seems like kind of a weird one, not somebody to set him up for offense right away. That's where, like, Sarr suffered a lot this last year, so that feels like an obvious one. So sorry, Wizards fans, I gotta put you down for them as well. Did we give the Wizards like anybody? No, probably not. We're probably not going to. Nick Clifford, 12 to 22. So we got this range right here. Kind of a bit of a smaller range compared to some of the other people here in this mid-first round. What do we know about Neat Clifford? He's kind of the Swiss Army knife of this draft. Older guy, should be able to contribute a little bit more right away. Shoot a little bit, put the ball on the floor a little bit. Strong rebounder for his position, smart player. Probably should go to a team that's a bit more ready to compete right now. So if I'm looking at these, like he could be a nice backup for Atlanta. The Jazz probably want to take a bigger swing. The Heat could probably use him right now, but they got a lot of other guys there. Brooklyn, I don't think it's the worst thing considering how many picks they have. The Timberwolves feels like a great pick. The Thunder would also be a solid one. Maybe Memphis as well. I feel like the Timberwolves are kind of like the pick here, though. Presumably, Nickeil Alexander-Walker will be gone. Terrence Shannon Jr. will get some more minutes, but they could still throw Neat Clifford out there to just be a solid contributor right away. And he can like handle the ball even just a little bit just because they don't have a ton of ball handlers on that team. So I like that fit. What would be the worst fit for him for 12 to 22 though? I kind of feel like, again, the Wizards is kind of the obvious one here, which I don't think it would be bad for them. I don't think it makes a ton of sense for them to go for a guy like this right now, again, because there's so many other guys at that position. Brooklyn, they'd at least get a solid contributor. I feel like with like their 4 first-round picks, they should get at least like one like more mature guy that's ready to go right away. So I don't hate that. The Jazz, like, again, he'd get the chance to play, so I can't hate on that. The Bulls, like, he'd get a chance to play right away just positionally. Spurs wouldn't be bad. Thunder wouldn't be bad. He wouldn't get a ton of play time right away on the Thunder. But again, I'm never going to say the Thunder are bad, so I'm going to say again the Wizards. Sorry, Wizards fans, this is just how it is. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm just not going to. Nolan Traore, 6 to 26. Good Lord. Okay, so let's take a look at all of these. As high as the Washington Wizards at 6, and as low as the Brooklyn Nets at 26. Okay, who needs a guard that could potentially lead some offense right away? Probably not going to be a great scorer, going to need some developmental help. Looking through these teams, the team that stands out to me the most right now is the Miami Heat. Obviously, great track record with developing players, potentially one of the best out there. They need some point guards and some guys that can just run some offense. That's something Nolan can do, so let's keep this one simple and give that one to the Heat. Where would be the worst place for him out of all of these? Let's see. Again, I don't think Brooklyn would be necessarily a great fit for him. It depends on what Brooklyn pick this is, though. Because, like, pick 26, if he was still available there, and maybe, let's just say they ended up with, like, a Trey Johnson or something like that. They put a scorer on the team with, like, the first pick, or maybe they went and got, like, a Maluach or something. Some people that he can play make to are going to be critical, right? So it wouldn't be I guess it wouldn't be the worst thing if he was on Brooklyn, because, again, you'd have kind of a lob threat center right away, which I think is important for these young playmaking guards. So not necessarily that one. The Bulls would probably be a pretty bad place for him to go. Again, so many other guards. Houston, probably not a good place for him to go, but at least they've got like a pretty solid developmental staff over there. So the Bulls could easily be one. If I'm looking through some of these other ones, the Hawks I don't think would be the worst thing. The Spurs just don't need it, but they're the Spurs. The Grizzlies don't need it. The Timberwolves would probably actually be not a bad place. The Wizards always, just because they're the Wizards. I don't think it's worse than the Bulls. The Nets, the Heat, Jazz, Hawks. No. I think it's the Bulls. I think the Bulls would be the worst place for him to go. Just, again, so many guys in different positions there, and they might end up trading a lot of them, but even still, it just wouldn't make a ton of sense because there's nobody to really play make to on that team anyway. Cedric Coward here. We've got a 14 to 26 range now, which is a little bit smaller and easier to handle. I don't want Cedric Coward with the ball wherever he goes. I need him playing off of other playmakers and just being a shooter, probably a little bit more ready to contribute on day one, just because that's his need. The Spurs at that position, probably a good place. The Thunder, potentially, they got a lot of other guys there, and it'd be weird for him to not get PT early on in his career, because, again, I think Coward should just come off and be a shooter right away. So I like the Spurs fit. The Grizzlies fit, potentially. I don't hate that pick. The Timberwolves, Potentially. Again, I'm not sure that's the exact player that they need, but I don't hate it. Washington, again, I think they should swing for more upside. The Nets, he's going to have too much pressure on him right away. The Heat, not really a positional need there. Where are we going to, by the way? To 26 I can go to. The Hawks, not a bad fit. Playmakers around you, could use some shooting, sure. The Pacers, maybe a lengthier wing. Does he fit lengthy wing talks? Potentially. All he'd have to do is run around screens and stuff. I'd like him to put the ball on the floor a little bit more, and I don't love that skill set in him right now, so I don't know. Orlando would be a really good fit for him. I don't hate that at all. And then Brooklyn again. So out of these teams, where would probably be the best? I'd probably say the Spurs out of all these, just because, again, proven track record. They need some forwards or some... he'd be more so a wing in my mind. Yeah, I like the Spurs for this one. So let's give it to the Spurs. What would be like the worst place for him to go between 14 and 26 here? Again, I don't think the Brooklyn fit would make a ton of sense. I think that'd be a little bit scary. Washington would seem extremely redundant. Like, they've got so many other guys kind of at that spot they're trying to figure out right now. So I feel like it has to be one of those couple teams. And I'm sorry that I keep bringing up those teams, but it just doesn't make a ton of sense to me. So I guess if the Nets took, like, let's just say a Yakachonis or a Fears or somebody else with like an earlier pick, I could stomach Cedric Coward. Again, I feel like they should be going mostly for upside. But it wouldn't be the worst thing to have a guy like that to play off of, so I feel like I can eliminate the Nets for that reason alone. Again, I don't think the Thunder would be a great spot for him, but the Thunder. The Jazz doesn't make a ton of sense right now, especially because you don't have like great playmakers at all times around you. The young ones aren't bad though, so I can't necessarily say that for the Jazz. Is it the Wizards? It might be the Wizards. So yeah, I'm sorry, Wizards fans. I gotta give it to you again. That one doesn't make sense. Basically, any forward like that, it doesn't make sense. Similar range here for Liam McNeely, 15 to 23. I wouldn't expect a high level of production out of him right away, but if you're looking for catch and shoot guy that's going to be strong fundamentally and you don't need to work too hard to develop, wouldn't be the worst thing to add him to the team. 15. So that's the Thunder. That wouldn't be a bad pick for them. They wouldn't have to play him right away. To the Grizzlies, there's a positional need, but I'm not sure that's the type of forward that they're looking for. The Timberwolves, kind of the same thing with them. Washington, they just don't necessarily need him. I don't think that'd be a bad place for him to go, though, either. The Nets, maybe swing for a little bit more upside. The Heat, I don't necessarily know. What are we going to? 23? A second Utah pick. Depending on who they take in the first, I could maybe see this. Again, maybe they feel more confident, though, in just being able to take a better developmental player. I don't mind the Hawks. I don't mind the Pacers. He's such an easy fit that it's not that hard to kind of think about him on a lot of these teams. I don't see him thriving very well in Indiana, just because of his play style. When he gets sped up, he becomes way less effective. But so I feel like because of that skill set alone, the fit on the Pacers is just that bad. So I think that McNeely gets passed on by the Pacers, or excuse me, that should be the worst fit, not the best fit. So let me put him there. Where would be the best place for him though? 15 through 23. Thunder, he doesn't have to play a ton right away, but again, there's what kind of ceiling are you really building towards anyway? Minnesota, there's not enough playmakers to really set you up there, so I feel like that could be a rough one. So between them and like Brooklyn potentially, I'm gonna say Minnesota. Wait, well, I'm supposed to be talking about the best fit right now. I'm so stupid. I'm sorry. Your boy's a dum dum at times, and we all know that. We know your boy's a dum dum. Worst fit for him. Miami has really no guys to set up for playmaking, but they're Miami. That's never going to be a bad place to go. I'm trying to think. What's a good place for him? I'm not so sure about this one. I'm really not sure about this one. I guess the Thunder or the Grizzlies, maybe. Just because, but again, he's not going to get the playing time. And what kind of ceiling are they building him towards? Maybe they want to have a better developmental program for McNeely. I don't know. You guys tell me what you think makes sense. This is a weird one. I don't really know where to fit him with this, besides let's just say Atlanta. Add another wing to the team where he doesn't have to have the basketball at all and he can just play off of Trey. That's probably the best place for him. Thomas Sorber. Defensive center, good fundamentals early on. Probably needs to get himself in a little bit better shape. Just doesn't need to have a super high ceiling. So kind of the same range again of 15 to 22 here. Atlanta wouldn't be a bad place for him. He's not exactly a lob threat from what we can tell. And who knows where they're at long term with Trae Young, but that's something to consider. Utah doesn't make a ton of sense for him. They've already got a bunch of other stuff kind of going on there. So that's probably not an ideal place for him. The Heat, again, I'm never going to say like Miami and Utah are like bad places to go. Brooklyn, not a bad place to go here. Washington, if you're just kind of trying to become a backup, that's not a big deal. Minnesota, not a bad fit either. The Grizzlies, sure. The Thunder, meh. I don't... This is a tough one. Let's think about best fit first. Where would be the best fit for him? Somewhere where he can just go be a comfortable backup for someone. I don't like the play style of him in Indiana is the problem, but they could use something like that. The Hawks could definitely use something like that, and he'll have people playmaking for him at all times. He doesn't have to create any offense. That's probably the best case scenario for him is Atlanta. Having guys like Trae Young is just going to make it easier for people, right? So we give them credit for that. As far as the worst place for him to go between 15 and 23, again, Indiana just needs the center, so that's fine. Miami, I don't know if that makes a ton of sense, but again, I'm never going to say Miami's bad. Washington, I'm not tripping over. Timberwolves, I don't actually think would be that bad. I feel like Memphis is still looking for like a starter quality center, and maybe it's Edey. I don't necessarily have a ton of faith in that, but I'm gonna say the Grizzlies. I don't feel like he fits their playing style either, so let's go with the Grizzlies. Jace Richardson, shooter, that and a guard that can't really handle the basketball, so we need to put him in a place where he's not going to need to have the basketball. And I feel like I should start to speed this up a little bit because this video is getting just a little bit long. So let's try to speed through these last couple. Jace Richardson, 15 to 23. Who's got a good lead guard that he could play off of? I'm gonna immediately say, oh, geez, these are not the teams that I necessarily want to see here. Oh, no. Oh, no. None of these are great fits. I'm going to be honest with you. None of these are great fits. Okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do a cut, and then you're just going to get to see the results for everything past this point, because I don't want to keep you guys too long here. Alrighty, I went and filled out the rest of this. So for Jace Richardson, I said best fit just literally because someone needs to develop him. The Thunder, worst fit the Nets because he'd have to have the ball too much right away. Joan Beringer, best fit the Hawks, lob threat guy. That's what he's going to be in the NBA. That's a perfect place to learn how to do so. The Grizzlies, not enough playmakers and guys to I don't know, put you in a position to succeed, and I feel like they need a more immediate answer to things. To Rasheer Fleming, best fit the Pacers. I think he'd fit their up-tempo style, and they could use a lengthier wing. Worst fit Orlando. They're just too much of a positional log jam there for a guy that should be playing right away, even though he can't shoot a bit. Danny Wolf, best fit Orlando. He could get some playing time right away as a center, and they need some shooting. There you go. That's an easy way onto the court. The Hawks, they don't really know how to play with a guy like this as far as I know, so I don't really like the fit. Will Riley, best fit with the Jazz. Positional need. Give him a chance to develop for a long time. I think that'd be good. Orlando, again, I don't think they need to take on another project at a position that they have already kind of figured out. Drake Powell with the Celtics, you say is the best fit just because he'd have a lot of really good kind of vets around him to maybe help develop the offensive game. There wouldn't be a ton of offensive pressure on him right away. The Timberwolves, no playmakers. So, yeah, that's a problem. Walter Clayton Jr., best fit, probably the Phoenix Suns. Immediate playing time, immediate impact for him. Worst fit, the Clippers. He'd never have the basketball. Noah Penda to the Pacers, a high-energy, big-bodied wing. That sounds like a thing that they could use right now. Again, worst fit, the Timberwolves. Not a lot of playmaking to help them out on the offensive end right now. Maxime Reynaud, best fit the Celtics, I think, because, again, he can maybe get some immediate playing time. He's a smart guy, fitting their system well. The Nets feels like the worst pick just because nobody's really setting him up for anything. And then Hugo Gonzalez, I said best fit the Clippers, knows how to play off of stud players already from his time in Real Madrid. Worst fit, again, the Magic. They don't need a guy at that position. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. This was an interesting little activity. I figured if nothing else, the video would probably get a lot of clicks just because this is a question that people like to have answered all the time. I don't necessarily think these are all bad fits or great fits perfectly, but I think it was an interesting exercise nonetheless. And, you know, draft week, it is what it is. For the rest of draft week, we're going to be doing an interesting analysis tomorrow for you guys on like high school prospects and how much we should be taking a look at those, and how well they actually translate when we're first scouting them to the NBA. And then we'll do a mock draft probably at the end of the week. But seriously, I appreciate you guys as always. Thanks so much. Let's move on to the comments of the video. Alrighty, y'all. Comment to the video is coming from the big board that I dropped. Again, I was really happy to share this. I know it was a really long video, but overall, like, you guys were loving this video, which I'm really happy about. There was a lot of effort put into it, so thank you guys. My favorite comment, though, came from the Hartarian said, I just realized this is an hour and a half. My boss hates to see an AVC video drop. Please don't not work and just listen to me. My stuff should be easy enough to just listen to in the background. I would hope so. At least it's not like there's a ton of interesting visuals going on here. But seriously, I appreciate it as always. Go jump on the Discord. Link is here in the description. We'd love to have you guys on there. But otherwise, we'll see you guys tomorrow. Keep having a great week. Thanks so much. Bye.